not too bad. Looks like I didn't have a whole lot of stuff here. Getting ready to go north. So that celery's seen better days. And lost my green onions. Oh, well, there y'all are. I didn't even hear you when you snuck into the old country kitchen this morning. And it's early, so pardon old Mr. Tom. Hasn't even got cleaned up yet, just threw on some work clothes. Because I got to get something started today. Because I'm wanting to go grocery shopping. And if you got here early enough, you might have seen me, you know, throwing stuff in and out of the fridge. And since y'all are here, I'll share with you what I'm doing, and maybe you do a similar thing too. So, let me show you what I got going on. And if you do something similar, maybe you'll share it down in the comments too. Okay? So y'all can see, I was throwing a bunch of stuff out from the fridge. And I got here, it's a chuck eye steak. Took it out a couple of days ago, was gonna cook it in an old cast iron skillet and make up some veg. But as the night wore on, I just really didn't feel up to it. But it's not bad, but it needs to go. I got some ginger here that's looking a little worse for wear. Of course, you can see the celery here. Some of it's not savable, some is. And that. I got a extra bag here of Green Giant sweet fixin' julienne carrots. I bought 2 bags, 50 cents a piece. Figured it'd be making salads a lot easier. I used one, but I didn't get around to this one. And then I had some green onions hiding in the crisper drawer that I forgot all about. So we're gonna clean them on up, try to salvage some of them too. And that. Now what are we doing today? Well, what I'm doing is what I call my fridge feast. Some people call it fridge clean out soup or stew. And that. But I always try to do this before I go to the grocery store. And normally I don't have a lot that's going north. But I haven't been feeling all that well for the last week or so or more. And really didn't do a lot of cooking. So some of this stuff got a little bit past its prime. But this all started in my family with my father. As we got more affluent, probably in my middle teens, we had more money. We were able to buy more food. Of course, we were still gardening and farming. Had it going on. But what he was seeing was, my mother, God bless her soul, she wasn't really used to preparing meals where there'd be leftovers. But over time, as we got, like I say, more affluent, she got to where we did have leftovers. And Dad would take as much as he could each day when he went on into work at the base for lunch. But things would still pile up at the end of the week. So what Daddy would do on Friday nights is he'd come on into the kitchen, and Lord knows Mama hated it, and he'd start digging through the fridge, throwing stuff up on the counter. He'd get a big old pot, put on the stove, and we're going to be using my crock pot today because I want to get all this going and get out in the yard. Try to finish it up today. And he'd throw it all together. And he didn't care what he put in it. It didn't matter what kind of meat. There were leftover hamburgers, taco meat, pork chops, chicken. It all went in the pot. Any type of vegetables. They could have been squash, peas, corn, green beans, you name it. If there were leftover mashed taters, he'd throw them in there too. He'd clean out the entire fridge and put it in that big pot. And somehow, his version always came out looking somewhat light gray to somewhere light to dark brown. And you never knew when he dipped a ladle in there, just quite what you would get when he brought it out. You might get a pork chop, you might get a chicken wing, chicken leg, you might get a piece of sausage. You never knew. But it never really tasted all that bad. In fact, most times it was fairly tasty. He'd season it on up. It was edible. And we'd all sit down with either some cornbread or white buttered bread and maybe a little side salad. And that would be dinner, Friday night. And if any of it was left over, that would be lunch and dinner for Saturday till it was gone. But that's what we're doing today. And like I said, I'm sure you have done this as well. May still do it. I do. Because food is money. And I just hate to waste it. So, I got to get all this stuff chopped, cleaned up, chopped, diced, and prepared, ready to go in that crock pot. So once I get all that done, we'll come back and we start throwing it all together. And after it cooks in the old slow cooker for about 4 to 6 hours, we'll come back this evening and we'll start dishing us up some bowls. And we'll probably have it with some garlic toast and maybe a little lettuce wedge or two ourselves. Who knows? Now it does appear we were able to save quite a bit of that celery. So all I do is cut it in half down the center, and then I chop it up however big I want it. I love celery, and I always try to keep it on hand. I don't know about y'all, then I sort of have a hard time using it all up. And then I always tell myself, well, I should dehydrate it. Yep, I should do a lot of things. And this time I wasn't cooking that much because of how I felt. I was eating a lot of sandwiches, soups, stuff like that, grilled cheese, you know, comfort food, without having to prepare it myself. That's part of living by yourself, especially when you ain't feeling all too chipper. You still got to do it, or you're going to starve to death and die. And I could go ahead and freeze some of this if I wanted to, but I really don't like the texture of frozen celery unless you're going to use it just for a soup. That's just me. Maybe y'all do. So, you know, a lot of celery flavor, especially, comes from the very heart of it and the leaves. And was able to salvage some leaves. Now, always, when you're cleaning out your fridge, youngins, you want to make sure you smell it. Make sure it don't smell off. Make sure nothing hasn't got all slimy. Okay? Like, there ain't nothing wrong with that celery. Gave it a quick wash, cut off parts that were, you know, dried up. The rest of it's just fine. Tastes fine. Ain't slimy. Perfectly okay. Didn't have to throw it away. Now I got to clean up these green onions. And that, I won't bore you with that task. We'll come back when I'm chopping them up and we'll chat a little bit longer. Well, as you can see, we were able to salvage all but 2 of our green onions. So we're just going to give them a nice little dice here. I'm going to make them a little extra big because they're going to be in there cooking a while. And I just don't want them to totally disappear. They may still do it, but they'll add the flavor that we're looking for. And that. Whoops, wasn't trying to get away there. Just put them over on that plate. Now, like I said, we're just going to get them all diced on up. And that's pretty much going to do it for the veg preparation. What we got left is cut that fantastic chuck eye steak. Now, I hate to use a chuck eye steak in a soup or a stew, but it's what we had in there. And who knows? I go shopping, I'd bury it in the fridge somewhere with all good intentions, and it would just go bad. So, got those green onions all done up. And that. Put them on the plate there with our celery. And I got that ginger here. And I'm going to just chop it, and I don't even worry about peeling it. And I slice it in some fairly thick slices. You know, 3/16, quarter of an inch. I don't worry about the peel. And that, it'll be okay. Never has bothered me. I don't seem to notice it. And in all truth, I don't eat it. So we got the veg all prepped. Now all we gotta do is get that steak prepped. I'm gonna set this in the fridge so it'll stay cool till we're ready to put it together in that crock pot. But you can see, all looks fine. Now you might wonder why I'm not using my paper plates like I normally do. Well, hence the reason I need to go shopping. Yep. All out of paper plates too. Whew, that is a fine looking steak. Look at that thing right there. Perfectly, nothing wrong with that. It's not slimy. Give it a good sniff. Smells like steak. Give those hands a little bit of a rinse. And we're just gonna chop up our little chuck eyes here real quick. Place them over there in that bowl. And that. Here again, about 3/8 thick. This is gonna add some really nice flavor to that soup or stew. Whatever you want to call it. Some of these longer pieces, I'll take them and cut them in half a little bit. There we go. Drop that over here in our bowl. Continue up on this other little piece of it. Woo. It's a little bit chilly. Ain't gonna be long. Need to sharpen up that little knife too. Of course, could have got out my big chef's knives. Just wasn't thinking about it. Now, if you don't want your meat so big, and you want to have more of it go around, just make sure, missed one there, cut it up in the smaller sizes. There we have it. Give the hands a little bit of wash. Rinse off the old cutting board and the knife. And we got our hands back all nice and clean. We'll set that beef in the fridge too to keep it cold, because we're going to get that crock pot to preheat. So we get our little crock pot over here, get her plugged in, set her on high so it can be preheating a little bit. And to make it just a little bit easier to clean, I'm going to give it a spray of cooking spray. There we go. We're going to let that come up to temperature, and we'll start throwing it together. Now, I was hoping I had some potatoes. That's another thing about this. You can do anything with it. But I didn't have any potatoes. Used them all. Didn't have any leftover ones. Ate them all. But I did have, when I went digging in the storeroom, some of these Libby's whole white potatoes right here. But let me show you something about them. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but it has a Best Buy of it has a Best Buy of 2013. These are going to be any good. That's 7 years. Not quite. It said December 13th. But you're going to see it as I see it. Okay. We'll give them an old sniff test. Well, they smell like potatoes. Juice in them's nice and clear. They look fine. Let me show y'all up close. See them right there? They look just fine. So, in my mind, I think I need to do one more other thing. What do y'all think? Let's give them just a little bitty taste test. So we'll get us a little plate. Get us a little fork. Oh, they're nice and firm too. Okay. Got us a little one here. Now I'm just going to take a little piece. Yeah, they're nice and firm. And I'm going to give it a taste test. Now, if it don't taste like potato, it'll be coming out of this mouth quick, okay? Well, in all honesty, it just tastes like plain boiled white potato. Yep. You know, potatoes, when you boil them, they don't have a whole lot of taste. They just taste like boiled potato. And that's what these taste like. So I'm going to use them too, because I think this needs some potatoes. Okay? Yeah. That wasn't bad at all. In fact, I could use these to make a potato salad, and I think you'd be hard pressed to know they weren't fresh potatoes. Yep. So that's just a FYI. Make sure your can ain't bulging. Make sure it doesn't have any off smell. Make sure it looks like what it's supposed to look like. You know, it ain't got all mushy, pussy looking or whatever. And as you saw, the liquid in there is crystal clear. It's just basically water, salt, and potatoes. Here, let me see what the ingredients are, if I can read them. Oh, yep, potatoes, water, salt, and calcium chloride, which calcium chloride would be a preservative. So they are good to go, and I'll be adding them in. Since during the canning process they're cooked, they will go in probably in the last half of me cooking in this crock pot, which will be depending on the meat and veg that I put in from the beginning. It'll be anywhere from 4 hours for high, or possibly 6 to 8 hours on low. But I'm probably going to kick it up on high, which is what it's on right now, coming to a temperature. So, drop them in the sink. And just so happens, I have a case of those. And I remember when I put them back and they got buried, put them back in, I think it was 2010. I'm going to add just a touch of olive oil to the bottom of that crock pot. So that there cubed up steak that I got that'll go in first won't want to stick so much to the bottom. And plus the olive oil gives it a nice taste. And we're going to be adding some seasoning to this too, no doubt. So we're going to let that crock pot come up to temp. And then we'll start putting all this together, okay? Well, the crock pot's nice and toasty. So we're going to start adding some of those ingredients. The first being that steak. Get it out of the fridge. And we're just going to drop it on in there. Just like that, just that easy. Give it a stir down in the bottom. Okay. We're just going to add just a touch of pepper, just a sprinkle. Not much. And a little bit of salt. Okay. Now, we'll throw on in our chopped veg, you know, celery, green onion, that ginger, now we got to get our carrots. You remember those julienne carrots? Which I already cut the bag open, and they were just fine. Wasn't nothing wrong with them either. So we're going to dump them on in there. The whole bag. Just like that. There we go. Ooh, you can hear that stuff sizzling already. That's why I like to get my crock pot nice and toasty first. And to that, we're going to be dropping in some beef broth. Just happen to have a 32-ounce carton here on hand. If not, I was going to use some beef bouillon. Of course, whenever you're using bouillon, remember, Don't add salt until the end. So we got that on in there. Give her another little mix up so everything's sort of distributed and those flavors can co-mingle. And that was just enough beef broth to cover. Of course, we needed to. We would have added some extra water. Now we got to spice this up some. Now remember, we're not going to be putting those potatoes in to around the halfway mark. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and add in some garlic. I mean, you gotta have it. So I'm going to add in a teaspoonful of dehydrated minced garlic. Oh yeah. Then we're going to add us in some basil. About a teaspoon of that as well. Well, that's about gone. So, a little tad that was left in the container, we just throw it on in there too. So it ain't gonna hurt. Won't hurt at all. Then we're gonna throw us in some thyme. Get us in there about a half teaspoon of thyme. So now we got some good flavor profile going. I love basil and thyme. And we're going to give it just a touch more pepper. I can always taste it near the end and see if it needs any more. For now, I'm just going to put in a quarter teaspoon. And I want to heat it up a little bit too. Help me with my health and that. So I'm going to put in a quarter teaspoon of crushed red pepper. Right there. That'll give it just a touch of heat. And that. And then we're going to throw us in just a little bit of salt for now. Yeah, we salted that meat a little bit. I'm just going to throw a quarter teaspoon for now of that salt in there. And I'm going to thoroughly mix this all on up. So those spices are all mixed in well. Just like that. Move our salt on over there. Place a spatula down. Now we could actually, you know, later on if we wanted to, we could drop some rice in there. Or even some egg noodles if we wanted. Let me show you what we got right now. So there you have it. It's all put together. Like I said, we've got it on high. And we're going to have it on high here for about 2 hours before we come back and check it. I'm thinking it'll go about 4 till that meat's just about falling apart. And then we'll chop up those taters, drop them in, and we may even look in the freezer and see if we got anything else in that freezer that we need to start moving out quickly. You know, like some frozen broccoli. You never can tell. That's just pretty much how easy it is. Cleared the fridge out. Leave room for the next grocery haul. Now, that being said, our next grocery haul is going to be at Superfoods. Yep. And I'll take y'all along with me. So we're going to let this cook for a couple hours. We'll come back and check it. See if it's ready to add those canned whole tomatoes and anything we found hiding in the freezer that we might want to add to. And I'll get everything cleaned up. And now, after that, I got to get out in the yard and get to weed eating. Okay? Well, y'all, it's finally finished up. We went ahead and added those potatoes in, not at the 2-hour mark, but at the 3, to allow that meat a little more cook time before we add the potatoes in there. And then we let it cook for another hour. And then I'll show you what we got here. We can put some in a bowl, let it start cooling off. It ain't nowhere near supper time yet. We'll be eating late after the sun goes down, probably around 8. Well, it's only around 3 right now. So, let me show you what we got. It don't look too bad. At least it didn't turn out some kind of shade of gray like my daddy's always did. So there you have it. Yep, you can see the potatoes in it. You can see that chuck eye steak we cut up. Of course, the carrots, the celery. And we did have just a few green beans, stragglers in a bag I'd been working out of. So I threw them on in there too. They were in the freezer. But that's it. So now it's all left to do is give it a taste test, see if we need to adjust the seasoning before we let her cool all the way on down, and let it rest some before we have our supper tonight. So here we go. We're going to put it all in the chompers and see what it tastes like. We got some meat here and potatoes, some celery, and some carrots. Bon appetit. Oh my, I must say, for stuff that would normally have got thrown away, that's mighty tasty. I do say so myself. The seasoning's perfect. The basil and the thyme bring out the veg flavor. You can taste a little bit of that black pepper, not too much salt, and those red crushed chili peppers. Just give it just a touch of heat to warm it up a tad. Ever so nice. Well, y'all, I'll eat what's left in this little bowl before I go back out and continue working till that old sun sets in the sky. And then later on this evening, I'll reheat me a bowl full of it. Probably make me up some garlic toast and maybe a little salad. And that'll be my supper. Won't feel like doing much by then, so this is going to come in darn handy. And got the fridge all cleaned out too, so we're all ready to go shopping. And that'll be at Superfoods, and I'm going to take you all along. So until we see y'all on the next video, y'all take care out there, stay safe, and God bless you, your family and friends and loved ones. Goodbye for now. Oh, and down in the comments, if you do something similar, put it in. Tell us all about it. Yep. Eat this up. Get back to work. It turned out tasty. I'm surprised.